The Resurrection by E. M. Bounds. Chapter 5. Never was there an age when it was more necessary to set forth evidence that not only imply, but practically prove the resurrection of the body, and that not only suggest, but confirm the teaching of the Church in reference to the future state, which it is the obvious tendency of the speculation of our own times to explain away, to modify, or to deny. Bishop Ellicott. In the person of Jesus, his acts and teachings, death holds an essential, conspicuous place. It could not be otherwise. Death holds a commanding and ruinous reign over the race which Jesus Christ came to redeem. There could be no redemption of man without an invasion of the realms of death, no sunlight to humanity while the clouds and night of death hung heavy and dread, no spring bloom to man while the winter of death swept and froze with its polar blasts and killing frost. The emancipator must break the thrall which holds, throttles, and enslaves. All his coming, and of himself the long-away prophet had declared, I will ransom them from the power of the grave. I will redeem them from death. O death, I will be thy plagues. O grave, I will be thy destruction. An age frivolous, reckless, treading on the verge of ostracism and suicide, may reck nothing of death, its mystery and fear. But a serious age will open its eye and seriously and prayerfully confront death, recognize and lament its reign and ruin as the king of terrors, the woe and plight of earth. Jesus Christ came to confront death, to war on death, to dismantle its empire, to discrown its king, until every one of Christ's imprisoned ones shall shout, Death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? Jesus holds in his own person the death of death. He boldly declares, If a man keep my saying, he shall never taste of death. He said in the presence of a death whose ruthless ravages had desolated his friendliest home and filled with bitterest grief his most devoted hearts, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. He attests the wealth and glory of his triumph over death. I am the first and the last, the living one. And I was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. And I have the keys of death and of Hades. What does Jesus, the great teacher, sent by God to teach us the great things of God, say about the raising again of the body from death? In raising the dead, does he not in action and in plain unmistakable fact declare his ability to raise the dead and imitate the possibility and encourage the hope of the resurrection? And it came to pass the day after that he went into a city called Nain, N-A-I-N, and many of his disciples went with him, and much people. Now, when he came nigh to the gate of the city, behold, there was a dead man carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. And much people of the city was with her. And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her, and said unto her, Weep not. And he came and touched the bier, and they that bore him stood still. And he said, Young man, I say unto thee, arise. And he that was dead sat up and began to speak. And he delivered him to his mother. And there came a fear on all, and they glorified God, saying, that a great prophet is risen up among us, and that God hath visited his people. Is there not in this picture the doctrine of the resurrection of the dead? Is it not a prophecy, and even more, a plague, that death in all its forms shall be conquered? Shall he live, and death reign? Does not this great miracle raise hope in him as the Lord of death? Can we not say, looking with wonderment on this display of the power of Jesus, My flesh shall rest in hope? On his way to Jairus' house to heal his daughter, and while pausing to cure the woman with the issue of blood, while he yet spake, there came from the ruler of the synagogue's house certain which said, Thy daughter is dead. Why troublest thou the master any further? As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said unto the ruler of the synagogue, Be not afraid, only believe. And he suffered no man to follow him, save Peter and James and John, the brother of James. And he cometh to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and seeth the turmoil, and them that wept and wailed greatly. And when he was come in, he said unto them, Why make ye all this ado and weep? The damsel is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn. And when he had put them all out, he taketh the father and mother of the damsel, and them that were with him, and entered into where the damsel was lying. And he took the damsel by the hand, and said unto her, Talith cumi, which is being interpreted, Damsel, I say unto thee, arise. And straightway the damsel arose and walked, for she was of the age of 12 years. And they were astonished with a great astonishment. And he charged them straitly that no man should know it, and commanded that something should be given her to eat. Another proof is this of his mastery over death, that he has the keys of death, and the fact that man's best friend has the power over man's greatest foe. It has that in it which gives hope over death, which does so readily yield to the power of Christ. The other record of raising the dead is that of Lazarus. This is the crown of his miracles. Martha averts her belief in the fact of the general resurrection of the dead. I know, said Martha, that he shall rise again in the resurrection of the last day. Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Do not these words, coupled with the action of Jesus, give strong imitations and a well-grounded hope that Jesus will break the rule of death and bring light and immortality to light out of the midnight of the tomb? And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. And I knew that thou heardest me always. But because of the people that which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And when he had thus spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave cloths, and his face was bound about with a napkin. Jesus said to them, Loose him and let him go. How many others were raised from the dead is not recorded. It seems an incident of common observation and the attestation of the divinity of his mission. The raising from the dead of these persons is not only an attestation of the divinity of his mission, but we repeat that they are prophetic and proclamatory to the race of their emancipation of their fierce and relentless foe, death. In addition to these acts which heralded the release of all incarcerated in the prison house of death, Jesus taught in expression language the resurrection of the dead. His attitude towards death was one of dire and internal opposition. He came as the representative of life and life-giving, that man might have life and have it more abundantly, a life unshadowed by death, and to which death was a stranger. In contrast and opposition to Adam, he was a life-giving spirit. Verily, verily, I say unto you, if a man keep my saying, he shall never see death. Again, we refer to those wonderful words used in the presence of death in the view of its iron rule. And while the tears of sympathy and indignation were still wet upon his cheeks, he declared, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth on me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. These words find their highest and broadest truth, that in his very person there were forces and principles inimical and destructive to death, that as he lived, death must die. The saying of Paul is but a condensed summary of this great purpose. The appearing of our Savior Jesus Christ, who hath abolished death and hath brought life and immortality to light. The epistle to the Hebrews asserts the same great truth, that in Jesus Christ, his person and his work, were lodged the mighty forces which were to bring universal freedom from death. For as much, then, as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy him that had the power of death, that is, the devil, and deliver them who, through fear of death, were all their lifetimes subject to bondage.